And welcome to another show of Don't Get This Twisted. I am Rob, along with my co-host, as always, Tina. How are you doing, Tina?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Oh, I am getting by. It's been a week.
Yeah. Are you working right now?
I am working. I went to work the next day, actually.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. It was, someone asked me about that too, so for the people out there, my mother passed away on Sunday. What day was that?
It was a week ago today.
Yes, it was the 8th. So either that or the 7th, we don't know. But we'll find out either Saturday night or Sunday morning. But yeah, I went to work the next day. Even the guys at my work were like, "Why are you here?" And I was like, I just gotta get out of the house. So
yeah.
But it's been a week. Actually, it's been a year. I got fucking COVID, and then my mom passed away. It's like,
and we're only a couple weeks into the year.
Yeah, I just want, give me a break, would you?
Well, hopefully the end of the year will be easier than the beginning.
Yeah. I just hope to get through the month. Let's get through the month first.
Yeah. It's like I've told you off the air, it's one of those things where you're going to go through a lot of different emotions over time. So just be kind of good to yourself and try to reach out when you need help or when you're feeling bad, because it does kind of sneak up on you, and it's going to take a long time for you to feel like any sort of normal is happening again. Good news is she didn't live close by you, so you didn't have her in your day to day, which would make it a little bit easier, but it's not easy anyway.
No, it's not. It's, again, I've already had a couple of waves, but I'm sure like once, other things, hit, like songs or movies or things like that, where you're just like, oh yeah. I want to thank all the people who've reached out as well, because there's a lot of people who've reached out to me. So it's very heart-wrenching, but she didn't suffer, so that's kind of a good thing. And trying to see the positives. And
you got a lot more going on inside than you're letting out right now. So
probably.
Yeah.
But I'm,
you got to do what you got to do for self-preservation.
Yeah. And without getting too deep into it, people on here, she was ill. She was sick for sure. So it was still a shock, but there was obviously
signs.
Warnings, signs, and she had COPD and she was on oxygen 24/7. So a lot of, I have other friends whose parents have COPD, and, not as bad as my mom's, but still in that same, the same type of thing. So, and they, even they were like, yeah, it's rough. So, but again, at the end of the day, it was nice to, have everyone reach out, and cousins I hadn't talked to in a while, and friends that I hadn't seen or talked to in a while, getting a hold of me was nice.
Yeah.
I even got a bottle of vodka, which was, I had a nice shot for my mom. So it was nice.
Good.
Anyway, let's take this even more down a road of crazy things, because our listeners and my friend Catherine again gave us a boatload of show ideas, because we've been listening to our fans now. So she said infidelity. Let's put the exact thing she said, because I should have had this up on my phone. It shows me that I'm not very good. Infidelity, when to forgive and when to give up. Which I think is a very interesting subject, because it's very prevalent
Well, yeah, I'm looking at the statistics from Psych Central, and it said in a 2021 survey by health testing centers, they polled 441 people. They said a little over 46% of the respondents in a monogamous relationship said that they had affairs. Nearly 24% of marriages affected by infidelity reported staying together. And then 47.5% of relationships affected by cheating said they established and enforced new relationship rules, such as sharing phone passwords to minimize the likelihood of more affairs. So that's kind of,
that's
if you
high.
look at the Democrat,
40-something percent.
Yeah, they said, okay, here's the demographics. Men who say they cheat, 23%. Women, 12%. Married people who say they cheat, 12%. Divorced people who say they cheat, 26%. And then it goes into infidelity of Black people, 24%. Of white people, 16%. So it's these are like kind of high numbers. I didn't realize it was that high.
I mean,
and I'm sure they're higher than that little study.
Well, yeah, because
for sure.
a lot. Yeah, I mean, look, they only polled 400 people, so you know, it all matters where they polled them, what cities,
and then what technically they think cheating is flirting cheating, is sexting cheating, is sending dirty pictures cheating. So there's a range of cheating variables.
Mostly now, because it's just so simple. I've never done it. At least, well, that's kind of a jaded thing as well. When I was in a relationship, I've never done it, but I have been the other person.
Meaning the one that you were cheating with somebody that was married.
Yeah, or with somebody.
Okay.
So I have been that person, but I never did it while I was in a relationship. So I'm just as shitty.
You're just as shitty.
I mean, look, if you're doing it and I think you're just as shitty. But if you're in a relation, look, there's so many, not to defend anyone, but there's always the story, there's always a story behind everything. But obviously. I do find it interesting. Like for me, I found out way later in life that my ex-wife did. She cheated on me at the end of our relationship. I didn't find out for 8 years. And then I found out. The funny thing is, when I found out, I was like, whatever. Because it was 8 years. Like,
yeah, it was already over with.
I'm far over with. But truly, when you look back on I looked back on my relationship, it was probably over 2 years before that. Like it, and she didn't know the person 2 years before that. So there's more to, I think, a lot of things like that, but it's high. And I think with the invent of social media, it makes it way easier.
It does. But then if you think about it, it doesn't, because everybody's got these Ring cameras and GPS, like things on their cars. So in that respect, it's easier to be traced or to be found doing something like that, because there's all the technology that keeps everybody connected.
True. But I mean, you can get around a lot of that stuff if you really want to.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, yes. I mean, let's say this. I mean, unless you think your mate is cheating, you're not going to put anything in their car to track them. Now, maybe if you already think that it's happening, yes, then it makes it much easier, because then you could always put something in someone's car and they would know it. And then the next thing you know, you're being tracked.
Yeah.
But I think the starting point is easier during a social media thing, Because how many times have you talked to somebody from your past on Facebook?
Oh,
you know what I mean?
At a moment's notice, I could talk to anybody that's on my friends list for sure. And I've had people that weren't a friend pop in after years and years. That was kind of an interesting conversation too. So it's super easy. And then since Instagram, like people are asking to follow me that I don't know who they are. And I'm still kind of private. I know I shouldn't be because social media for the podcast, especially, but I'm still kind of private. So I don't let just anybody follow me. And there's every day I get people like private texting me, you know, it's on several different, like it could be Facebook, it could be Instagram. It's been interesting. I even had somebody reach out and I don't even know how they had my email. They did it that way to ask me out. I'm like, who are you? And
wow.
Where did you come
email
from? I don't know how that happened, but somehow they were able to they wanted to ask me personally and not on a social media site, but they were able to find my email and do it that way. I wasn't interested.
Gangster.
Huh?
No, but that's gangster. When you look up somebody, when you find someone's email, that's going
I
deep.
Didn't think that, but I wasn't interested.
No, well, and look, I mean, I get it, but I think that now it's just easy.
It totally is.
It's because it's everything's in our hand, like, and it's in our hands for 70% of the day, and it's just easy. And again, there's a story for everything. Like, so to be, you know, to be honest, like, yes, where do you cut that off, or where do you say, hey, let's make this work? I think there's a lot to that. It all matters how deep you are, like how far gone is the relationship, how much damage has been done, or why are they cheating? There's reasons for that as well.
Yeah.
You know, I think, or at least in my head, and you know, I don't know if there's a statistic or not for it. Obviously, the one that you read, men cheat more. I think men cheat for the glory. I don't think men cheat more. I think men are more. Maybe they get caught more. Because I know several women that cheat and they don't seem to get caught. Their lives are a little bit different. They don't have to be to work the same hours. They have more opportunity, I think, but they just it doesn't get back to their significant other. You know, doing hair, I hear a lot of stories, and I'm sure
women cheat. It's a fact.
I would not ever say that they don't. I just think I think women and men do it for two different reasons. Yeah. I think men do it for, and I don't mean the glory of, like, I just think that either they're not getting what they need and someone is filling that. Like, I think men do it for the sex part, or they're just trying to do that. And women do it.
They want somebody that actually is speaking right to them and isn't belittling them, putting them down, frustrated. You know what I mean? Because women could be pretty harsh on men. And I think that we need to remember as women that men they're not as strong as what we thought they were. Like, they do have a heart. It does bother them. They just don't say anything. And I think that as women, we need to remember that.
Yeah, I'd go with that. I think that women cheat more for the relationship aspect, though. Like, I think that and again, I could be wrong, but like I said, men cheat because they're missing something. They might love their wife, but they're not getting something in the relationship. I think if a woman cheats, she cheats because she's not getting the emotional part of the relationship.
Right.
So,
right. And then did you hear the 80-20 rule?
No, what is the 80-20 rule?
The 80-20 rule is men cheat because 20% of what their world needs isn't met. So it's normally like sex and that the closeness and the getting the affirmations. Like, so the 80-20 rule is they have a woman that does 80% for them and effectively works in their world, but they're missing the 20%. So they look for a woman that will fill those needs. And then between the two, they get all their needs met. But that it's that 20% that makes them cheat.
I'm looking on a website, healthline.com. So I just typed in why do people cheat in relationships? That was kind of interesting. There's some pretty interesting. This is a 2017 study. There was 259 women, 213 men, and 23 people who did not state their gender. They were mostly heterosexual, 88%. Average age was 20. Not necessarily in a relationship. 51% reported being in some type of romantic relationship. God, that's kind of, that's shady. So here are some of it says, look at the key factors of what might come up in the relationship. Anger or revenge. So that's one of the reasons. So you're doing it out of anger or you're trying to get revenge on some reason. Like your partner's not around that much. They don't have much to give physically or emotionally. Frustration after an argument, probably going back to an old flame. I mean, I think that one makes kind of sense. Kind of a shitty reason to do it, but yeah, you know, they hurt me, so I'm going to hurt them. I think a lot of people have done that. The second one I think is probably one that's super true and probably the most reason is that you just fall out of love. And instead of ending the relationship, you're finding a way out of the relationship this way, and probably don't care to get if you get caught because then it ends. But you know, I think that's probably a big one, and it probably happens. This third one is situational factors and opportunity. Let's see. Having a lot to drink and then just end up sleeping with somebody. That probably happens. Wanting physical comfort after a distressing event. Living or working in an environment where there's a lot of physical touch and emotional connection. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of that happens at work. Coworkers is probably a big one. Just because you're around these people, and like there's even the joke that some people have a work wife. So makes sense. Fourth one, commitment issues. Lack of interest in committing, wanting a more casual relationship, or wanting a way out of the relationship. Again, if you cheat, if most of the time someone's going to say it's over. So, number 5, unmet needs. Partners have different sex drives. One partner can't have sex or doesn't have interest. One or both parties often spend time away from home.
That 20%.
Yeah. I think the staying away from home is like the kiss of death, like people who are on the road. Like I couldn't imagine like being like all my friends that are wrestlers that work for the big companies, like the people that are on TV all the time. Like they're on the road fucking, 20 days a month.
Wow.
So yeah, when you're on the road that much, or you're in a rock band and you're gone for months and months, it's how do you deal with that? I think that either partner is trying to bridge that gap of being alone.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, like you said, I think, having a different sex drive, or one's interested in sex and one's not. And that could change over years. So maybe you had a great sexual relationship in the beginning, and as it went, you just change. So someone's probably going to try to fill that void. Sexual desire. Let's see what this one says. Unmet sexual needs.
Notice that in longer term relationships, I'm noticing that women don't want to have sex or as much sex with their husband as they once did, knowing that their husband wants to have sex. I'm noticing a lot of women just aren't wanting to give it up. But I'm seeing this in long-term relationships. Right. Someone who's been with them 10 years. Yeah, at least. Yeah. And I don't know if it's burnout or it's hormonal for sure, because, you see people start to go through menopause and things like that. Women don't want to have sex during that a lot of women. I shouldn't say all, but it's like their sex drive changes, but the man's doesn't. It doesn't happen at the same time. And so it causes some frustration for the man, and he'll go out looking for sex because he needs it. Let's just be honest. Everybody needs that sort of attention. And if a woman is not giving it to him, how long can that last? How long should it last? Well, and here's part of that, because number 7 on this one is wanting variety. So different conversations or styles of communication, different non-sexual activities, attraction to other people, relationships with other people in addition to their current partner. So in a context of relationship, the desire for variety often relates to sex. For example, someone might be interested in trying types of sex with their partner that isn't into it. Yes, I think that would probably, if you're looking to do other activities that your partner is gun shy about, let's say that. Mostly I think with types of sex, if we're, without getting too graphic here, what do you mean, Rob? Well, tell me what, what? Mean, yeah, there's particular orifices that some people want to do and some that don't. And then there's, I think, just, we haven't really got into that. We've been planning these shows forever, and we should probably do it, more non-vanilla sex. So, without, we can go down the line of rough sex. Let's put that's an easier roundabout way of saying it. Some people are into that and some aren't. So there's a hard line with how do you get there? Well, yeah, these people are finding someone who's into that. And again, it doesn't say that they don't love their significant other. It's just saying that their needs aren't being filled. And if you go to that person and say, hey, I want this, and they say no, then what do? You're at there's a line drawn in the sand. So you're trying to fill your need, whatever that need is, but you still love that person or love to be around that person or whatever. You share family, you do this, you do that. I think that's the harder part. Where do you give up? Where do you say, okay, look, this is what I need, and where it's not going to happen here, I have to get out of this relationship. So I get that. Kind of, relationships are so freaking complicated to begin with, but if your needs aren't being met and you're living a life always depleted, that's definitely something to look at. Because life doesn't need to be like that. And you know what I know is that if men and women are in a relationship and they are not having sex, they're still wanting it. So they're going to at some point get it from somebody. So if you're not making that happen for your own relationship, I think maybe it's for whatever reason. I think for women, it's just like even variety, like after 20 years, the same weenie's the same weenie. Like it, just something else, something different, something that's you're not stuck in the same rut of doing it the same way and the same time or the same whatever. Like, because in relationships that does tend to happen. It doesn't always happen, but oftentimes it does. And I think that if you can't find a way to bridge that gap and you're burnt out on having sex with the same person, maybe it is better to cut ties and try to walk away without killing everything. Just realizing that sometimes it's not going to last forever. And I think that's more realistic. And I wish that I had known that all along, that the reality is some relationships aren't meant to last forever and they're not going to last forever. And you have to put a lot of work in to keep a relationship going effectively. And if you don't, somebody else will take that, burden off your shoulders.
For sure. No, I agree. All right. Number 8. This one's this is kind of the end of at least on this one. Low self-esteem. And you were kind of talking about this earlier. Having sex with a new person can lead to positive feelings. Yeah. You might feel empowered, attractive, confident, successful. These feelings can build up your self-esteem. So people are cheating to just have their self-esteem risen because where they're at, it's not being filled.
And that's a shame because you, as a couple, you should always be building each other up. Always. It's important. Not building them up isn't going to keep them with you. Building them up. No. Making them happy, making them realize that you're their best friend. That's what's going to keep a person there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, look, admiration is great. I think it's super important for everything. It's not just, I think being patted on the back in a relationship is super important. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be every day. And again, you don't have to tell your mate she's beautiful every day. I mean,
yeah, you do.
Unless yeah, you do. No, you don't.
There should be a moment where you're connecting on a, just giving the kudos, I believe, and not just the beautiful part, but hey, thank you for doing what you did for me today. Or
yes,
man, I couldn't wait to get home to you,
Yeah. And look, and I'm all up for like, if you're truly saying these things, like, look, if you want to tell someone they're beautiful every day because you damn round believe it, I think you should say it. Mm-hmm. And hopefully your mate doesn't think, oh, they're just saying this because some people want to tell you that you're beautiful every day.
Yeah.
I don't think that it has to be said because I think that there's the things that you were just talking about that are just as important. Like, thanks for cooking dinner tonight. Or thanks for doing this, or thanks for picking this up on your way home because I'm not feeling good today. There's different kinds of it. Yes. I think that the physical part is great. To hear you're handsome is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to lie about that. And again, if you're telling somebody these things because it's your truth, I hope that the person that is hearing them understands that it's not bullshit.
Well, if you have a loving relationship, you should be able to say, I'm not joking here. I really mean it, and you should be able to get your point across that they would know that,
Yeah, no, I know. But I think a lot of people, words go in their ears and they're just like, oh, they're just saying this again. They're just saying this again. It's like, no, maybe they damn well believe it. Because, I've been in relationships where like I say things like that. And I'm sure the person on the other side was just like, maybe questioned it because I was just always saying it because that's how I felt. So
It sounds like
I'm
some
sure
low self-esteem, though, if you think about it too.
it could be, but maybe because they didn't hear it a lot from somebody else.
Yeah, it could
Like
be.
I have a friend in Vegas who her ex-husband was fucking horrible. Just shit on her all the time. And she was absolutely stunning. Now, I think he did it for the wrong reasons. He wanted to make sure that she stayed in a certain spot. I think that men are horrible, and they do that. They're manipulators. Well,
Everybody
men are
could be
known
that.
for that shit. No, I agree, but I think men are known for that kind of manipulation, that physical and manipulation, or mental, but through physical attributes. Like you're never going to be skinny, or who's going to want you with 2 kids. Like people say stupid shit like that. So they stay in a marriage that they're not happy in, because who's going to want you? So I think when someone starts building that self-esteem, that's where they cheat.
Yeah.
Because they're hearing exactly what they wished their partner said to them.
Yeah.
So the last thing on this little website here is repairing the damage. So it says, if your partner has cheated, these are the things that how you can handle the situation. Talk to your partner about what happened. Obviously, finding out what the motivations were. Ask if your partner wants to continue the relationship. That's, I think, the biggest question of all. That should be the first question. Like, do we really want to go down this road? Because are you going to continue? Or because after you find out what happened, you should ask, okay, is there a way that I can still fill the role in this relationship? And if not, you're right. I think it's time to get out of it. And then it says, ask yourself if you can trust your partner.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because
too.
I think that's the bigger thing, right? If you've been cheated on, okay, let's say that everything's hunky dory and you're working towards this building block. You yourself have to dig deep and say, okay, am I going to be able to trust this person? Because if you're not, you need to bail out the relationship.
Well, not only that, but okay, so we've already established that there's things that aren't working in a relationship, which causes people to cheat. So both people, not just the one that did the cheating, but the person that got cheated on, needs to make an effort and change all the behaviors that are going on that are making both people or both partners not want to be in that situation. And if both people, not just the one that cheated, but both people don't work on it, nothing changes.
I agree. Totally.
But that's
because it's definitely, there's a couple more things on this that kind of said that I kind of agree with it. The next one is ask yourself if you still want the relationship. So this is if you're the person, obviously, that got cheated on. You have to ask yourself that and why you're doing it. Are you not leaving because you're afraid of starting with someone new? This is what it says. Or do you think the relationship is worth fixing? So there are questions that you have to ask yourself. Deep questions like that. Like, okay.
Yeah, but you shouldn't stay with somebody just because you don't think there's somebody else out there for you. That's dumb.
No, that's super true. But I think that definitely goes through people's minds, mostly as you get older. I think as you get older, that's totally what goes through people's minds. Like, do I really want to start over again? Do I really want to do this? And then we have kids. Are the kids going to like this person? Is this going to happen? Is this going to happen? So I think there's a lot of things that go in that. Not that I'm saying that it's the right thing to do. I'm just saying that I can understand why people do it.
Yeah.
And then the last one says talk to a counselor. Obviously, I think that nothing can. Well, I shouldn't say nothing bad can come from that, because I think something bad can come from that, because it all matters what kind of counselor you get and whose side they take. I was going to say
it depends on the counselor too, because you don't want to be with somebody if you have to decide, do you want to be with this person or not? And then you need to find somebody that's going to support whatever decision you're making. Like it shouldn't be, you shouldn't allow anybody else to have an opinion about what you're going to do, whether you're going to stay or you're going to go, because that's a very personal thing and only you can make that choice. But once you realize you want to stay or you want to leave, find a counselor that will help encourage that instead of, make your life even harder than it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I hear that a lot. Like people will say, oh yeah, well, my counselor just got in the way of everything and made it worse. And, I didn't make my own decisions.
Right. Or if your counselor is just, I think a counselor can be good and bad. I guess it all matters. It matters what side they take or how they look at things. There's a few different things. So that was if your partner has cheated. This is the one. Here's a couple of things that says if you've cheated on your partner. Obviously, same thing. Do you still want the relationship? I think that's the big question, because if you're outside, and again, I guess it all matters what kind of relationship you're having with the person you're cheating with. Is it an emotional relationship? Is there more than just sex? Then I think you have to be honest with yourself and go, okay, I want to get out of this because I'm missing this part of it. I'm missing the everyday person and the person who's going to give me compliments and this and that. So if it's not just sexual, then you have to kind of ask yourself a lot of bigger questions. Yeah. And then the next thing says, can you work through the reasons for the infidelity? So again, if you cheat on your partner for a certain kind of sex, well, are you going to go back to them and say, this is why I'm doing it because I'm missing this in the bedroom? Can you fill those needs? Then I won't have to go outside. That's a whole other thing. So
well, I think that if there's cheating, at the point that there's cheating, there's point that there's finding out that cheating has occurred. Like that's the time you don't have anything to lose. You should be completely honest. You should put it all on the table. You should say, this is what I need. This is what I want. This is what I'm willing to do to fix things. And then the other person has to be honest with themselves too and say, is this something that I want fixed? Is this something that I can get over? Most of the time, from my understanding, people don't get over cheating. They just can't. It's an ego thing. They can't see the writing on the walls for what it is. And the betrayal is too much for them to handle. And so they just can't get over it. And if you're going to try to stay with somebody and then torture them the whole time, that doesn't make any sense to me either. If your spouse cheated on you and you're pissed off, yeah, I totally get that. But why would you torture them to prove that they love you? Like, how is that proof? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
So you got to be really clear with what you want and then act accordingly. If somebody cheated on you, but you still want them, you can't be a dick to them every day for 2 years. You know what I mean? You have to work with them. You have to quit being an asshole and drop it. If you're going to stay together, you got to drop it and move on. You can't torture a soul in the process because you're hurting.
Correct. Here's the next thing. If you were the cheater, it says, do you see yourself cheating again? Infidelity can cause pain, heartbreak, and emotional distress. If you think you might cheat again, don't promise to be faithful. Instead, tell your partner you don't think you can commit. Again, be honest. If you think that that's something that's going to happen within the relationship that you're in, get out. Yeah. It makes sense. I mean, and again, I don't want to make it sound like this is easy. I think leaving a relationship is not easy at all.
It's torturous. It's
yeah.
It's a lot. But I think it's harder to stay in a relationship where you're not loved. I think it's harder to sneak around. I think it's harder to fake it than it is to just be really freaking honest and say, this isn't working for me. And either how do we fix it or do we let it go?
Yeah.
Communication's
so
key.
So on here it says the bottom line. It says, you might have heard the phrase, once a cheater, always a cheater, to describe people who aren't faithful. But while some people do cheat repeatedly, others don't. Working through infidelity can strengthen a relationship, but it is essential both you and your partner be honest with what you can commit to in a relationship and maintain open communication going forward. Yeah, I mean, we've talked many times on this on this show about communication. And though it sounds like it's the easiest thing in the world, it is not.
You know what?
Most of the time.
It's easy if you put your ego down. If you could put your ego down and say, look, I just got to be honest with you, and I'm going to throw this out in the air, and hopefully you will put your ego down and listen to me so we could have a real conversation without, just throwing shit at each other. You could get it handled. You could look at things. You could process it. You could, see the other perspective of the person that you're supposedly in love with and try to work it out. But if you don't put your ego down, or you think, oh, well, you did this to me, so I can't be, then you got to go. There's spending time with somebody that you have to torture to prove that they loved you. That's not love. It's just not love.
No, I agree. And again, like, people who have been together long periods of time, it's got to be, for one, it's super hard because you have always thought that everything was good. So there is something to that. But
do you really think everything is good? Like, I'm sorry, but I've never met a couple where everything was good to begin with. So if everybody's thinking that they're good and they don't have to work at it, like, I don't know.
No, I think people get comfortable. We all get comfortable.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's definitely part of it. Like, you can get comfortable. Talking to people is never easy. In most cases, that's why so many people have issues, right? Because they're afraid to bring something to the forefront. Just as easy as saying, like, the part of wanting to talk about what you might be into sexually. That's a hard conversation for people because you're going to bring this, what most would consider not vanilla or not normal. And you're going to bring this to your partner of 15 years. Mm-hmm. And then they're going to question all kinds of other things. Like, why didn't you tell me before? How long have you been into this?
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. And now you're raising a whole other issue that you think is now, okay, now I've really screwed this up. And then no one trusts anyone after that either. So I don't know. I think it's a hard thing to decide do you give it a try or do you let it go? I think that there's a lot of different variables that come with that, of what you're willing to do, how long the relationship's been around, the reality on both sides of that relationship, who's really dedicated and who's not. If you've got to the point that you've cheated, anything that the guy does, let's say he cheated, anything that he does is now going to be questioned. You're 20 minutes late. There's a fight. If if you just want to go out with your friends, there's an issue. Why are you going with them? Where are you going to be at?
And the issue is, if you don't trust the person you're with, why are you with them? You can't control somebody and tell them they can't see their friends. They can't go out and get a beer. They can't, like, if you're doing that, the relationship's never going to work anyway. And it shouldn't. It's not meant to. We're adults. We're supposed to be able to come and go as we please. But we're also supposed to want to love our spouse and do what's right by them. And if we don't, there's the problem.
Correct. And again, I think we're talking post cheating. Well, once you get there, it's like, look, you have to be able to to understand that. Now, look, if you've cheated, you should have no issue saying where you're at or letting them have a tracking. Like if you have iPhones, you can track each other. Like you can open that app to each other and go, look, you want to know where the fuck I am? Cool. It's like my boy, like me and my son share where we're at.
Yeah, but that's,
so he knows
that's
where I'm
parents. I don't agree with that. If you can't trust your person and you got to track them, there's something really fucking wrong with the relationship.
I think before cheating, yes, I think that's kind of crazy. But I can see as look, if you're trying to fix that relationship, I can understand. If you're both saying that you want it to work. If one doesn't want it to work, you shouldn't be in that situation anyway.
Yeah,
you know
I think
if
you're at the point where you have to follow them and watch their every move, that relationship is dead. It's over.
Yeah. I think there's something to that. Nobody wants to have a fucking ankle tracer. You know what I mean? Because that's what it ends up feeling like. When you're just on lockdown and there's cameras and there's this and there's that. It's like, but again, I don't want to get too deep on look, there's, if you're cheating, there's a reason. And 9 times I would say out of 10, it's probably because the relationship's already over.
Yeah.
At least what I would think. Maybe it's not 9 times out of 10. Maybe it's 7 times out of 10. Because like I said, I think men cheat just to cheat. Someone gives them attention and they're like, oh, it's like I'm young again. Instead of just going to your spouse saying, hey, I'm missing this in our relationship. How do we get there? And it can't be easy from the standpoint of like life. You have kids, right? You have kids at home. They're always there. You always feel like you're watching them. There's never alone time. There's no parent time, or it's always parents' time. It's never relationship wise. And I think a lot of people need to look at that from the standpoint too, that if you're in a relationship that you think is rocky and no one's cheated yet, or no one's done this, and
that's when you should be working on it.
That's when you say, we need to have a babysitter. We need to get out of the house. We need to do this. We need to do that. But the communication, I think, is on both sides till the very end. If you're not happy, get out. It's okay. Like, I think that at some point you have to tell yourself, I need something different. And look, I as much as I've said it to a bunch of other people about my ex-wife, she had at least the balls at 40 years old to say she wasn't happy and she left. It's ballsy.
Yeah.
But she did it, and good for her. I think that there's something to that. A lot of people don't like to hear that, but regardless of what it was, our relationship probably wasn't great. So end it and let everyone have a new start at life.
Yeah.
And it was hard. That it was hard for me. I mean, mostly because I took my son and whatever, but starting over sucks. Just does. It's never easy. And when you're doing it, there's so many fucking pitfalls you have to go through. So that's why people stay. Makes sense. It's like, fuck, man, if I have to do this, I haven't been alone. And being alone sucked. It's super sucked. When I first left, or when she left and we decided to move on, the first time I had an apartment by myself was rough. My kid was 7 years old. He'd go to bed at 8 o'clock. So from 8 o'clock to whenever I went to sleep, because I was fucking stressed out and living in another state. And so I'd go to bed at fucking 1 o'clock in the morning and get up at 6 o'clock to go to work. So I was butchering myself because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. So
I think there's a lot to that. I feel for the people who, even if they've done the cheating, starting over is hard, but there's a lot to starting over. So, at the end of the day, if starting over makes you happy, awesome. I don't know what my ex-wife went through, but it couldn't have been easy for her either, even though she made the decision, because you have to get another place to live, and you have to do this and you have to do that. So I don't know. I think that if you're unhappy, and you're filling that void, there's a reason.
Right.
But I think that there is ways to fix the relationship. I truly do. If you're both really committed to fixing it and you're telling the truth of why it happened, then and you think that it's something that's fixable, that it's not an emotional bond. It was just sex, and that's why I was doing it, because I'd rather be doing this with you. I didn't think that you would be into it. I didn't think you'd do it, whatever that is. I think that's fixable. Emotional bonds are not fixable, I think, because once you have an emotional bond with someone else, you just don't give that up. That person's filling something that you needed. Yeah. So you're better off cutting ties with where you're at and having the new person that you're having emotional attraction to, as well as physical, probably. But you have something that's so rooted, it's going to be hard to come back from that, because you're always going to be thinking of that person.
Yeah.
If you're staying and you're like, oh, I'm going to try to do this, but you're always wondering what they're doing or still have them on your mind, you're never going to fix the relationship you're in.
Yeah. No shit. That's for sure. It's not, if there's an emotional relationship, that's somebody that means something to you. That's somebody that you've built more than just a cheating type of situation with. That's somebody that you see in a different light. Mm-hmm. That's not easy to walk away from. And I don't think people that cheat, if they're in that situation, they really do. You always go back to that because that's where the comfort is.
Well, because they're filling your mind.
Yeah.
And once someone fills your mind, it is very, very hard to let go of that.
Yeah.
Because in some people can look at sex as just sex, and that's all it is.
Yep.
And go right home and still love the person they're with, because that person is filling their emotional needs. But they're just not filling everything. Like you said, 80-20. But when 80% is the emotional bond, that I don't think there's anything that you can fix with that. Because that emotional bond keeps coming back. Mm-hmm. I don't know.
I agree.
That is my take on the Infidelity podcast today. Now that we're and my last words are just that. I don't think I can fill anything else with that. I think we've knocked it out in as best as we can. I'm sure that this is one that we can revisit many, many, many times with other people coming on and talking about said things.
We want to visit this many, many times?
I think it would be interesting to have somebody on who was either the cheater or got cheated on. I think that would be an interesting podcast.
Well, shit, I've been both.
Yeah, not us.
Yeah.
and anyone but us, someone on the outside. Like, we both know someone who has been doing it and done it for many, many, many years. Yeah. It'd be interesting to hear their standpoint of obviously why and why they stay. I think it'd be an interesting topic, and it's a dude. So, to hear that, obviously I still think that that's an emotional need. It's not just a sexual need. Mm-hmm. So for me, it would be interesting to have someone else come on and talk. We talked about it before. We got to get time, and if they're willing to do it or not.
Yeah. I'm always free to hear that.
Yeah. And I can even do one of these things.
So they sound like this, so they don't know. And
they don't know who it is. You got to get a different voice because that one's annoying.
Yeah. I mean, I can change it. I can bring it down. I can bring it down lower. I can bring it down. So I can make it really high so they sound like a chipmunk too.
Oh, that would be kind of funny. Too.
They'd all be annoying. They'd all be annoying. But anyway, hey, just so if you're listening to our podcast and we've had a hell of a month, like a hell of a month, some new users, some new listeners who have been binge watching here close to home.
Binge listening.
Watching. Jesus. That's what happens when you stream all the time. I want to thank everybody. It's really cool. If you're listening to the show, I think it's super cool. Please feel free to hit us up. Tell us what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right, what you want to hear. And it's going to be a fun 2023 because it started shitty, but we're going to end it. We're going to go through these months super strong. Go to our social medias on the old Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And then you can hear this show on Apple, Google, Spotify, Amazon, iHeartRadio, all those places you can hear podcasts. We're there every Wednesday. Anything else you got to say there, Miss Tina?
Communication. If you guys want to be in a healthy relationship, you need to be real and you need to communicate and you need to find a way to say what you need. That's it.
Ditto. I'm going to go with that and say that no better way to close it. Right. And this is an opinion show, so don't get it twisted. Keep coming back every Wednesday. We have many, many more things to say. For my co-host, Tina, as always, this is Rob. We'll see you in a week. Bye, teeners.
See ya.